Keep your thought in here. Hi, Sylvia. Welcome back. Okay, so it's your side out today.
Reb Chaim Littman Zev ben Abba Shmuel.
Reb Chaim Littman Zev ben
Abba Shmuel.
Abba Shmuel. Yishom Hashem Aliyah. So I want to read you something cute that I received. Where is it? So this was sent by some Chabadnik in Montreal to somebody else. Somebody forwarded it to me. Question of the week. Here, have some tea. Pour some for him, pour some for you. Just careful. You have your cup? Okay. You have, to the rabbi, you haven't seen me in shul for a while now, Rabbi. I just don't have time in my life for spirituality right now. My week is packed with work, family commitments, fitness, and a little socializing and time to relax. I don't see, everybody has it now. I don't see where I can fit in coming into shul. I don't want to burn out, do I? Answer. There was once a rabbi teaching a classroom full of students. He started his lesson by saying, "My dear students, today is our last class together before you graduate. For this special occasion, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to teach you the secret of a good cholent." Students were aghast. Yeah, sure. I wouldn't be aghast.
I'd be so aghast. You gotta learn it from somewhere, right?
Yeah, well, why would it be aghast from learning about cholent? Anyway, cholent, the traditional Shabbos stew, is a classic of Jewish cooking. But hardly, you know why, by the way? You know why? You know what children, you know what children this is supposed to be on Shabbos morning? You know why?
Why we have it on Shabbos?
Yeah.
Why we have it? No.
It's all has to do with the halacha about keeping things under fire over Shabbos and so on. It's very much about that. So, Cholent, the traditional Shabbos stew, is a classic of Jewish cooking, but hardly a profound subject for a rabbi to teach his students for their final lesson. The rabbi took out a crock pot, filled it to the brim with potatoes. He then turned to his students and asked, "Tell me, now that I've filled the pot with potatoes, is the pot full?" "Yes," his students replied, confused by the simplicity of the question, for there was no way to fit in any more potatoes. With a smile, the rabbi took out a bag of beans and poured it into the pot, and the beans managed to slip between the spaces among the potatoes. "Okay," said the rabbi, "now is the pot full?" Looking into the pot, the students agreed that it was indeed full. Without missing a beat, the rabbi took out a bag of barley and poured it into the pot. The small kernels meandered effortlessly between the cracks and crevices among the potatoes and beans. "Now it's full," said the students. "Really?" said the rabbi, taking out his collection of spices. He then began shaking out generous amounts of salt, pepper, paprika, garlic powder all over the pot. The students watched dumbfounded as the spices easily settled into what it seemed to be a completely full pot. The rabbi, obviously enjoying himself, asked again, "Is it full yet?" Without waiting for the answer, the rabbi produced a jug of water and proceeded to pour its contents into the pot. To the amazement of the students, he was able to empty the entire jug of water into the pot without a drop spilling over the sides. "All right," said the rabbi, a look of satisfaction on his face. "Now, is it really full?" It really is full, right?" Students all nodded in agreement. "Are you sure? Are you absolutely certain that I can't fit anything more into this pot?" Suddenly unsure of themselves, the students looked at each other nervously and said, "Surely you can't put anything else into there." With drama and pathos, I don't even know what pathos means. Anybody here know what pathos means?
Pathos?
Pathos. It means drama?
I think it's like intention to it.
Let's erase the word. I'm just kidding. Anyway, so with drama and pathos, the rabbi raised a finger in the air, lowered it slowly, and flicked a switch on the side of the pot, turning on the heating element lying beneath. "You see," said the rabbi triumphantly, I just filled the pot with the most important ingredient of all, warmth. Without it, the pot may as well be empty." The rabbi paused and looked deeply into the eyes of his stunned students. They were stunned. "My children," he finally addressed them, "you're about to leave my class and go on to live busy lives. In the big world out there, you will no longer have the luxury of studying holy books, holy texts all day. In time, you will be consumed by the pressures of looking after a family and making a living. But always remember this: your material pursuits are just the potatoes and beans of life. Your spirituality, that is the warmth. If you don't maintain a spiritual connection through praying every day, studying the holy books, and keeping focused on the true meaning of your lives, then you will end up as a cold cholent, very busy, very full, but completely empty. When you have lost touch with your soul, your family life will suffer, your career will be unfulfilling, you won't even be motivated to exercise. But if you keep the fire burning in your soul, if you stick to a daily schedule that nourishes the spirit, even if it is only for a few minutes a day, then those few minutes will bring warmth and inspiration to all your other activities. The spiritual connection imbues your entire life with meaning, keeps you anchored and directed, inspired and motivated. It permeates all you do with a sense of purpose and makes you succeed. You may be wondering, continued the rabbi, how will you have time for all this? How will you be able to judge the demands of material life along with your spiritual development? You will find the answer by looking at the cholent. Did you notice that though the pot seemed full of potatoes and beans, barley, spices, and water, when I added the warmth, it didn't overflow? Never think that adding spirituality to your schedule will overburden you. On the contrary, it will bring everything else in your life together, because it will remind you why you do all these other things in the first place. You work in order to be able to live a life of meaning. You get married in order to bring the best out in yourself and in your spouse. You have children in order to educate them in the ways of goodness. You keep fit in order to have the strength to fulfill your mission. Spirituality is the warmth that does not take up space, it creates more. With a loving smile, the rabbi concluded his farewell's words with a wisdom that I think apply equally to you. You should never think that you are so busy that you can't afford to concentrate on your soul. The truth is, you can't afford not to. May God bless you that each and every one of you should always be a warm pot of children.
Amen.
Cute, huh?
That
That's
reminds
nice.
me of Reb Zalman's recipe. Is it for matzo balls and fragments of a future scroll?
Yeah.
He describes, you know what I'm talking about? He describes Bereshit
Yeah,
as a matzo ball recipe.
It's the story of Shlomo Munkes with that Kabbalist. Yeah. Okay, so we started learning yesterday about Kabbalat Shabbat, so I was doing some looking into it a little bit more, and just it's good to know some of this information. So the Kabbalat Shabbat is the order of the Mizmovim that we say on Friday night at the beginning of Shabbat. It was established by the Kabbalists in Tzfat around 1570. That's how long ago? That's 435 years ago. No, 445 years ago, approximately. And it's something that became accepted by all communities of Israel. So the 6 Psalms that we say before Lechadodi, as we've said the other day, are corresponding to the 6 days of creation. And each one of them is talking about a different type of divine revelation in this world. Okay, so and that prepares us for receiving Shabbat, which is Me'en Olam Haba, which is which is described as being a taste of the world to come while still in this world. And then the 6th Psalm, which is actually Psalm 29 in Tehillim, it has in it 7 times the words Koil Hashem, the voice of God, which is corresponding to these 7 Kol Hashem, that we have 7 blessings in the Amidah and in the Shabbat Amidah, right? You know that the daily Amidah prayer, the weekday Amidah prayer, we call it Shmona Esrei, 18 blessings, because originally it was 18 blessings. Eventually the rabbis added a 19th one. So the format is that the first 3 blessings of the Amidah, of the standing silent prayer, are always the same throughout the year, and the last 3 are always the same throughout the year, with some minor changes, like between Mashiach Baruch and Morita Geshem. But otherwise, the 3 at the beginning and the 3 at the end are always the same. The first 3 are called Birchot HaShevach, the blessings of praise, and the last 3 are called Birchot Hoda'ah, blessings of thanksgiving. And then in between, during the weekdays, we have 13 blessings, which are basically supplications, requests, and so on. And on Shabbat, we don't make any requests. On Yom Tov, we don't make any requests. Everything is shalem, everything is the way, just as it should be. So we only have a blessing in the middle that's called Birkat Kedushat Hayom. It's a blessing over the sanctity of the day. It's like a kind of a Kiddush blessing. You know, Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadesh Shabbat. Blessed are you, God, who sanctifies Shabbat. Did they teach you to sit like that in school, by the way?
No.
No? Oh, okay. So we traditionally don't do it. Although my grade 1 teacher made us do that, you know?
Why not?
Because it's a prayer form in the church, that's why.
Oh.
Like this?
Yeah,
One rabbi once told me, you don't do this
right.
because it crosses with energies. It shouldn't be crossed.
Well, maybe that's a deeper explanation, but that could be. I don't know.
Like,
Yeah, that's fine.
you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to do this.
Not supposed to do that. Yeah. Anyway, so in any case, the going back to what we're saying. So the Shabbat Amidah is 7 blessings, and then following the first 6 Psalms, then we do the Chadodi, and then we also do Ana B'Chorach. The Sephardim do it. I don't know if the Ashkenazim do Ana B'Chorach. Also do Ana B'Chorach, yeah. And then the Chadodi, and then the 7th Psalm, which is Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat, which is the Psalm of Shabbat. Now, the Sephardi shuls, which are very particular about Zman, about doing things like right on time, So, for example, the shul across over here, they daven nates every single day of the year. Every single day of the year, when they start the Amidah, the morning Amidah, that's exactly the moment of sunrise. Throughout the year, regardless of whether nates is at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning or 6:30, they're like time clocks, and then Fridays, when they do Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat, it's B'diyuk Shabbat. Like in other words, they do Mincha earlier, and then they do the 6 Mizmorim and Shir HaShirim, and then when you hear them doing Mizmor Shir Yom Shabbat, it's Shabbat. Right over here is the shul across the way over here. He's a Kabbalist rabbi, and the Kubbalim, by the way, are very precise. Okay. So that was.
Shul with the Asian Chayla, like on the front.
That's also they probably do the same.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about the one like literally
right
over here.
right.
Okay, so that's that's a little bit of background information about. By the way, this is a great sefer of. I don't think they've put it out in English yet. It's Rav Steinsaltz. There's 2 volumes on the Siddur, and he tells you about every single prayer and every custom and so on. It's good to know.
Really?
Yeah.
Siddur
Siddur v'Hatfilah. Yeah. So now I was looking up a little bit more Chassidut on Kabbalat Shabbat, which I also wanted to share with you. So this is from the Alter Rebbe's Siddur. By the way, before we go into this, just there's a lot of by the Hasidic rabbis, they very many of them have a tish on Tu B'Shvat, what they call the Peirot tish, and the Hasidim get together and they give everybody fruits to eat and make a blessing on the fruit, and the traditional blessing that everybody gives one another is that it says in the Torah, Ki Adam Eitz HaSadeh, man is like the tree in the field. So in a certain sense, we're like trees, and you want some tea? We still have some warm tea.
Is this in the evening or the day? Usually.
The tissues, I don't know. Depends where. Hold the top down. So the blessing is that your children, what makes a good tree is that the fruits. Amen. What is that the fruits of the tree are grow nicely and taste the way they're supposed to taste, and that they produce seeds as well, which will then produce more trees, and go on and continue. So the blessing is that that your deeds should be like good fruits, that they will then produce more good fruits, that your children should be like good fruits, and who will also have children that will be good fruits, and so on. And Shlomo used to talk about, and spoken about in Chassidut as well. He used to like to do this thing about, imagine you're interviewing a seed in the ground a few weeks ago. Put a microphone down there. Hello, Mr. Seed, how you doing? Oh, it's so dark over here. It's so cold over here. It's damp. Okay, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks later, how you doing? It's really bad. Like my skin is cracking. I'm beginning to disintegrate. And then, a day before Tu B'Shvat, so what's happening now? I'm totally gone. I'm just like, there's almost nothing left to me. And then to Bishvat, how you doing? Hey, I'm beginning to grow again, you know. And it's a metaphor for us, you know, like the when you're going through something like a winter type of thing, like something dark, like, you know, and things are breaking apart. It's, in other words, it's that process of nullification of the egotistical self which allows for the future renewed life. Okay, so back to Shabbos. And so the Alter Rebbe says like this. Now, I'll tell you right now, I'm not even going to pretend that I understand all of this, okay? But whatever we can get, we'll try to get. So it's known that on Shabbos, every one of us gets an additional soul. Now, what does that mean? Right? We have an Neshama Yetira, we get an additional soul on Shabbat. And in fact, the reason behind the custom that when Shabbat is over, that we smell the spices. Anybody know why? Know why?
To make up for this. To make up for the additional soul we lost.
Not quite to make up, but you know why? You learned about it? Yeah, because the additional soul is leaving, right? And what do you do when somebody faints? You give them smelling salts, right? In other words, but it goes deeper than that. The one sense that's not mentioned when Eve ate from the tree of knowledge is the sense of smell. Okay, she saw the fruit, she touched it, she tasted it, and she spoke about it, right? What are the five senses? Touch,
Hearing.
hearing. Yes, she listened to the serpent, but it doesn't say that she smelled the fruit. So the rabbis interpret this to mean that the sense of smell, the sense of fragrance, was not contaminated in the transgression. So the sense of fragrance is considered to be like a very spiritual sense.
I remember we learned this too. You can't really sin through smelling. You can't really sin through smelling. Like it's a very pure sense because there's not really any sin to be committed through smell.
We'll leave that aside for now. Okay. In any case, but it's true that lahaloch recha lav milta, right? Like if you're cooking two dishes in the same, in one is fleshig, one is melachtik, in the same oven at the same time, without considering that nothing is getting splattered, okay? But the fact that the fragrance of one and the other fragrance of the other are are both there at the same time, that's not a problem. Yeah. So in any case, so the sense of fragrance that reminds us most of Olam Haba. Understand? And so when the neshama, when the additional soul is leaving after Shabbos, so we smell the spices sort of to keep us going till the next Shabbos. In any case, back to what it says over here. So on Shabbos we get an additional soul, and says the Alter Rebbe, that means that something really new is born among the community of the souls of Israel, something that is not present during the week, and that is a love and a desire for God that is beyond your intelligence and beyond your meditations. Because there are two kinds of ratzon, two kinds of deep desire, and there's the desire that comes about through intelligent meditation, and that's called Ratzon HaTachton. That's called a lower level arousal of desire. And then there's also Ratzon HaElyon, which is a much higher level of desire, which actually comes to you from above. Higher than your chachma, higher than your intelligence. And the revelation of this ratzon, of this supernal desire in man, this simple love which is beyond intelligence. This is the aspect of the yechidah of your soul, which is higher than intelligence. There are 5 levels of soul, right? And starting at the bottom, they're called nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and yechidah. Nefesh is the part of your soul which is animating your physical body. It's associated with action. Ruach is the part of your soul which relates to your emotions. Neshama is this part of your soul which is relating to consciousness. Can you hear me, Tuvia?
Oh, yeah.
Consciousness. And Chaya is sort of like the soul of the soul. Okay? And Yechidah is the highest level of the soul, which is the part of the soul, like the word Yechidah, which is in continuous, constant union with Hashem. Okay? Now, it's only the 3 lower parts of the soul, the Nefesh, Ruach, and the Shema, that we're familiar with in our daily lives. Okay? Chaya and Yechidah generally do not manifest to us in a way that we're consciously aware of. So he's saying, but on Shabbos, it's the aspect of Yechidah that is somewhat revealed. And he gives a parable. When a person desires something that he really wants, and that desire causes him to do things that are not quite logical, because the desire is so deep, it's deeper than your intelligence. Right? So for example, let's say you desire to be close with God, because it makes sense to you, because every time you do that, it feels good. You feel one, you feel whole, and so on and so on. That's great. But higher than that is, you'll go to the end of the world to have that. Right? In other words, somebody will say, well, what do you have to go there for? Like, I just have to go. I have no reason. I can't explain to you why. Shlomo used to say, if you can tell me why you're marrying this girl, I can convince you to marry my sister instead. But if you can't tell me why you're marrying this girl, then that's your deeper desire. Understand? It's like it's really deep in you. So he's saying that on Shabbos, right? This deep desire to be with Hashem is revealed, particularly on Shabbat. And that's the aspect that's called the Hava Rabbah, great love, and it comes down to us from above. and is experienced in the divine soul. And that's why we say in the Kiddush, V'ratza banu, that he desires us. That means to say that this, what do you mean that he desires us, that God desires us? In other words, that's what's revealed when we're saying that's what's revealed on Shabbat, is we feel this desire of Hashem for us to be close with him. Now, in order to draw this great desire down, right, and in order for it to be revealed on Shabbat, there has to be a vessel to receive that light. And the vessel is that Ratzon HaTachton, is that desire that of the lower level, which is birthed by our intelligence and our meditation during the 6 days of the week. And it's the work that we do during the 6 days a week that brings about this desire on our part, and is what makes the vessel to receive the supernal desire that comes down on Shabbat.
Wow.
And then, what's the word you gave me for Hasha'ah?
Inspiration.
Inspiration. There was another word and then the supernal desire has a place to dwell within our lower desire to be with God. And that's why it says Shabbat Shabbaton twice. Like you have the word Shabbat twice. There's the two desires coming together. It's our desire for God and God's desire for us. And that's what in the Neshama Yetera, the additional soul on Shabbat, that's what it's all about. What did you want to add to the Alter Rebbe? Yeah. What?
That sounds Brian's maybe it helps me understand Svat the middle of that. He says that it says Zachor v'Shamor. The first of the Ten Commandments, the first time it says remember Shabbat. The second time it says keep the Shabbat, protect the Shabbat. He says Shamor Shabbat, that's keeping Shabbat in the 8 days of the week. The preparing for Shabbat during the days of the week, that's the Shamor Shabbat. And this helps me understand that. Good.
Can you just paraphrase that part about the two desires and how it relates to receiving Shabbat?
So during the week is sort of like you're building the vessel to the vessel of desiring to be in union with Hashem. Now, so long as the desire is something that is defined by my understanding, by my meditation, etc., right? So it's a lower level desire, okay? What comes down on Shabbat is a much higher level desire that is beyond understanding.
That's when the ladder reaches down.
That's when it reaches down. Okay? So you understand? In other words, you on Shabbat, but in the Neshama Yetera, you get to experience something beyond that you don't even know how to explain it. I know somebody that he's told me more than once that on Friday night when he's davening Kabbalat Shabbat, he says he doesn't know what happens to him. It just, like, he starts with the davening, he gets into it, and he says it just takes him over completely. And, somebody that people think is just a simple Jew, but he's obviously not so simple. But actually, simple is actually pretty great. You know. Yeah.
With the analogy of marrying the girl, you said if you do have an explanation, it's not. It's hard to have to not know why.
If you have an explanation, it's not that it's wrong, but you can somebody might be able to convince you that you should marry somebody else.
If it's not a level of understanding.
Right. Right? Because the relationship is basically limited by your understanding of it. Come on in. It's okay.
So it's something that's coming down on Shabbat. This
Right.
like desire that's coming from the Elyon.
It's a higher desire that is coming down to
Mm-hmm.
that we can experience, and hence that explains the term. Like it's another
Kabbalat.
explanation of the term Kabbalat Shabbat, right?
Because you're
Right.
receiving it
You're
as
receiving
it's coming
it,
down. And what happens if the yearning for like a real Shabbat is so great that you're not able to, like whatever's coming down, maybe you're not catching it or you don't have the vessel, where like the yearning is like so,
No, I'm not. What are you trying to say?
like if the 6 days of the week are there to create the vessel to receive, what, first of all, sort of how's that done? If that's through meditation or whatever.
Yeah. So yes, that's through learning, through meditation. So,
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So what happens then if on Shabbat, when it's sort of coming down, what if you, even though you've been working on the vessel, don't really have the vessel?
You first of all, just because, and you see, there's so many factors that, like the more delicate something is, the more sensitive it is to any aberration. Okay.
Can you say that again? That's such a great sense.
I should have written it in grade 8. I would have passed English. Right? The more sensitive something is, the more. What did I say?
The more sensitive something is, the more likely to have aberration or something.
No. The more sensitive, the more delicate something is, the more sensitive it is to any aberrations. Right. Okay. So it's like what do you call it? Like for example, Dr. Rebbe speaks about, like let's say for example, what's the difference between a very refined soul and a very, very refined soul? Okay?
The word very.
Huh?
The word very.
The additional word, right? Both have
Oh
very.
my God.
One more very.
You want to see my grade 8 composition book? It's terrible. Anyway, yeah. So let's say for example, you're a refined soul, okay? But and you mamish, like you're doing all the mitzvot. There's no lashon hara. You don't listen to any lashon hara. Like you give people respect, etc., etc. It's wonderful, right? But you know that on your block there's a family where one of the parents there is not being very nice to their kids, and you don't like that, but you're lacking the righteous indignation to go and beat the guy up, right? So that's already like a difference between like being a refined soul and being very refined. You know what I mean? The more refined you are, the more intolerant you are of anything that's not right. I heard this great story about Toscanini that at the Fabrengen on Yutes Kislev. Did I tell you? So there was this guy who was writing a biography on Toscanini, and he was spending a lot of time with him. And at one of the meetings, Toscanini said that like the next 2 hours we can't talk because they were playing one of his concerts, one of his pieces on radio. And this is back in those days when radios like sounded a lot better than the digital garbage today, right? And so you never heard those radios, did you?
CDs are always there.
It's like radio.
It's not the how, it's the what.
Anyway,
Did you do it with an iPad?
yeah. Anyway,
Oh.
so Toscanini was listening, and apparently, I don't know, there were 150 violins in this piece or whatever it is.
No.
And one was, and at the end of the concert, like the biographer asked him, "So were you pleased with it?" He says, "No, one was missing." I told you the story. One was, you know the
Different
story.
It's different stories.
Anyway, yeah,
It was in a rehearsal with the NBC Orchestra, and one of the violins, there's like usually 16 first violins and 15 or 14 second violins,
Yeah,
30
yeah.
violins. One of them was trying out a different instrument that they in rehearsal,
yeah,
and he could hear that one of his violinists was off for sure, anybody would, but he could hear that the whole sound was, because it's a different instrument.
right,
It was also a great instrument.
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, the story, the way I heard it
Oh, yeah,
was,
and maybe it's a different story anyway.
It could be,
Yeah.
so he says there was one missing, and so the biographer wrote to the conductor to verify if on such and such a date when they played this piece, was everybody there or not? And the conductor wrote back. He says, "No, one guy was absent.
Oh, I see. Whole different story.
One guy was absent."
Yeah.
And they were all playing the same music, but
Yeah.
so he asked Toscanini. He says, "No, every violin has its particular,
Right.
its particular edition."
And that's when it's doing exactly the same note on the
But
tape.
right,
Yeah.
and
It's not just the
still,
violin, it's the violin.
huh?
It's not just the violin, it's the violinist.
Yeah, that's the point. In other words, every one of us is here. That's a mashal that every one of us is here. We might be doing all the same thing, but every one of us is making a particular contribution. Okay. So in any case, the going back to your question, the point is that like it could be that you did all the work during the week, right, to make your vessel, and still you don't quite get the experience that we just read about, okay? And it could be, that you didn't do anything wrong, but there was one incident where you heard somebody say an not nice word to somebody and you should have done something about it. So the more delicate the thing is, the more sensitive it is to any aberration. Okay, I told you the story, but this it's a cute story. This Miss Nugget read in the Sefer that if for 40 days you don't speak Lashon Hara, then you ascend to a higher realm of consciousness. And he did it, and nothing happened, and so he couldn't figure out why. Anyway, he decided that he's going to go visit the Rishon Rebbe. He'll go ask a Hasidic Rebbe to explain what happened. Anyway, he comes to Rishon, and the Rishon Rebbe was a direct descendant of King David. He was like sort of bringing back the whole aspect of melucha, of kingship into the world, malchus, and so even though his own shoes had the soles were pretty much bare, and but on top his shoes looked like real fancy, and the whole table looked real fancy and everything. So this guy is like sort of put off, like, what is this holy man got to do with all this, silver fancy stuff and so on? anyway, and he doesn't like the way the Hasidim are pushing and shoving, and like Hasidim push and shove a lot. It's just you go to Meir Shor on Friday night, you get pushed around. It's like body dancing, like, or whatever they call it, And
Mosh pit.
What?
A mosh pit.
Never heard of that.
Like in a concert where they're like running into each other.
Slam
Slam
dancing.
dancing or whatever.
Mosh
Yeah.
pit?
Mosh.
Mosh.
Slam
Mosh.
dancing.
Mosh.
Yeah, it sounds like
Mosh.
it's slam dancing.
On stage?
Is that
Definitely
Yiddish?
slam
That's the
dancing.
word
No,
after
no,
that.
he does it.
Pit.
MOS.
Yeah.
Two words?
Mosh pit.
Okay.
MOS.
Anyway, so the and then on Sunday after Shabbos, the Rishon would go out for a ride in the forest, and he had to make a nice wagon and some like 6 or whatever or 8 beautiful horses, and all the Hasidim would go outside to watch the Rebbe leaving to go to the forest, and he was there too, this Misnagid, and before the Rebbe gets onto the wagon, he went over to one of the horses and patted the horse. So this Misnagid just couldn't control himself anymore, and he runs up to the Rebbe and he says, "I don't get all this, you're supposed to be a holy man and all this gaudy stuff, and now you even touched an unclean animal." The Rebbe says to him, "This horse hasn't spoken Lashon Hara in 40 days." Okay, so you understand it's
Well,
huh?
it's sharp.
Yeah. Okay,
So
so
I came in late, but you were talking about receiving Shabbos.
Yeah.
Shlomo said this. I love the story. He says once he was called to the Catskills to play a camp, at a religious camp. It's like a religious camp. And the Shabbos table, the kids, girls are talking about lipstick and nail polish, boys talking about baseball. And Shlomo was saying it was mamish the highest Torah, the highest Shabbos in my life, right? So Shlomo, how could it be a highest Shlomo? How could it be a highest Shabbos? He says, if I'm sitting at the table eating like a mensch, and everybody else is sitting at the table eating like a mensch, so mazel tov, it's good, He says, but suppose I'm sitting at the table eating like a mensch, and everybody else is under the table licking bones. He says, it's mamish, it's a whole different thing. He says, I picked up everybody's Shabbos.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, so
That's crazy.
So in any case, so this is this is now so the question is, okay, so how do you receive this higher level of desire and love for God? And so the singing and the dancing at Kabbalat Shabbat is part of the gateway. And just knowing that, that this is like, like when you go to a wedding, that something's happening, right? And leave your office outside, so to speak. Hang up your nonsense in the cloakroom, and just leave it there for a while, and come in and just say, okay, maybe I'm not on the conscious level of understanding of what's going on, or I might not even have the deepest experience in the next hour, but I know that it's Shabbos, and I know that something special is happening. That it's the wedding day between God and the Jewish people, the 7th day, every 7th day, and I'm glad to be here, and I want to be here, and I want to. And I'm gonna sing along, even if it's just for a few minutes. Maybe my heart might not be totally into it, but I'll sing along. And the nusach is like like Zalman said, nusach is like the engine of the train, of the locomotive. It's like it gets things moving, right? Music starts to make things move, and let go of your expectations and that it's going to be like this, or it's going to be like that, it's going to be like that. Just sort of be there and participate and just look around and say, I accept upon myself the mitzvah of you have to love your fellow like you love yourself. And at the very least, I don't want to do anything to destroy this beautiful mood that's happening here in the shul. And I'll go along with it. And sometimes you just literally have to trick yourself into it, and let yourself be there, and stop analyzing. Because it's beyond, and it's something that's beyond analysis. Like during the week, you can think about, like your different levels of spirituality. But again, like the Alter Rebbe said, anything that's from your seichel, from your intelligence, it's not the highest level, because it's defined by your understanding, it's defined by your intelligence, and so on. Yeah.
In recovery, they have they say fake it until you make it, and it's like
I've heard that.
You get
and some other profession.
you get these guys that come in. Everyone comes in. They could still be drunk. They could be like they have been homeless for the last 10 years, and you watch them and they start doing things, and like if you listen, and it's like if you don't listen, if you're not willing to try, you end up dying, you end up back on the street, you end up whatever in an institution. But when you watch these people, and suddenly there's you don't there's been experiences where I've seen this guy, then I see them 10 months later, and there's light in their eyes, and and it's just, you don't know why you're doing something, and especially someone like that, they're when life comes back.
Good.
I learned that about doing mitzvot, specifically about one example is tefillin. What happens if you don't believe in tefillin? Well, so I was told, do it anyway. Mashallah, no lishma, balashma. What you don't really have full intention, but if you keep doing it, it may come to you. And so you put on the one for the hand for the arm, which is the action, before you put on the one for the head, because you might not get really into it with your consciousness right away, but you gotta just do it. Some things that helps with something.
So there's a phrase. Actually, we have a piece of art up in the kitchen that says, "Misha tarach be'erev Shabbat yochal b'Shabbat." One who puts in the effort before Shabbos gets to eat on Shabbos. Right? In the kitchen.
It's a good mother guilt.
Where do you get that sign from?
You
So you can make your own.
Did Judy come up with that herself?
No, it's different. No. Somebody. There was a student here that does this kind of art, and she brought it.
How does it go?
You look later. Misha tarach be'erev Shabbat yochal b'Shabbat.
It's a famous expression.
Yeah.
It's
from the Talmud. It's from the Talmud.
I want to hear it in Yiddish.
In Yiddish, wer ist der Mashiach gewesen für Shabbos wird essen Shabbos.
There we go.
That's how you say it.
So, one more thing before we go, okay? So it says also in the Zohar, it says that Shabbat is one of God's names.
Wow.
Okay.
So you can't say Shabbat Shalom in the Shanta.
It's one of God's names, right?
Shalom as well.
And it represents the world to come. Shabbos is also known as the day of the soul. We've learned that. Okay. And Reb Nachman, this is also from the Zohar, said, not Reb Nachman of Breslau, but Reb Nachman from the Talmud, that on Shabbos we get an additional soul. So one of the students said to him, Rabbi, what is this additional soul? So he says it's the Holy Spirit that dwells on you on Shabbos and crowns you with a holy crown similar to the crowns that the angels wear. And that spirit is somewhat like the spirit that will dwell upon the righteous in the future. And it's for this reason that we have to honor the Shabbos day, because we're receiving this holy visitor that's coming to be with us. So it's in honor of this holy visitor, of this spiritual dimension of Shabbat, that we have to prepare ourselves to honor its the way we dress, the way the food, the way we think on Shabbos, the way we speak, the way we do. Everything has to be like with the consciousness that we've got a very special guest with us for Shabbat, and so to receive it in that way. And of course, right, goes without saying, it all has to do with simcha. It has to be with simcha, it has to be with joy. Okay, so Mr. Shem will continue tomorrow.